David Moyes is back on borrowed time. West Ham have indicated, they've leaked, that they'll be watching the next 2 games very, very closely indeed. They've not been impressed with what happened against Fulham, but it's not just that. Because of that, I've brought this video to you early, so my videos will be a bit out of sequence today. The video that I did have planned for this morning, I'll now put up later on tonight, so a couple of the references in there might not make sense, basically. But this is the news, this is the hot news, and that's why I'm going to bring it to you now, and we're going to discuss it now. I'll be as honest as I can about it. I mean, Claret and Hugh contacted the club after the game just to get their opinion on the game itself. Whenever this happens, there's normally nothing comes back after the game unless it's a really, really big win. So for something to come back now, and I don't want to misquote anybody here, but I'll tell you now, it's a very, very high-placed source at the club. And for the news to come back now and for them to say that they're watching the situation very closely and the next 2 games are not just very important, very, very important, capital letters. It's information they want you to know. They want that information out there. So I do think there's going to be an element of play into the galleries on this. However, it brings up that, I guess, that eternal cycle that David Moyes seems to be on, where he's got a couple more games to save his job. However, that's not the only thing. They're not only bothered about the 5-0 loss against Fulham. They're not particularly impressed, as I understand it, with some of his comments during the week. Now, I'm a bit pleased about that, because I did wonder after I picked him up on a few of his comments if I was being too pernickety. Am I reading too much into what's being said? And if you want to know what was being said, he basically said that he couldn't challenge for the top 6. Spoke about Aston Villa being uncatchable and top 6 was unrealistic, and all he could do was hang on to the top club's coattails. I didn't like hearing it. I mean, it does seem that the club didn't like it either, and that you can understand. You can absolutely understand that, because he's been given a lot of money. I'll cover the money more in the video later on. He's been given a lot of money, for about $450 million. So when you've given someone that much money, you don't want to hear from them that can't compete. Then you've got this situation where the team absolutely capitulated against Fulham. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of varying results over the last game week or 2. You know, almost all the big teams have lost and won, and apart from Villa just sort of carry on marching on regardless. But there's been some fluctuating results, let's put it that way. But I do wonder if it was actually the manner of this defeat was so bad, so utterly bad, and possibly what he came and said afterwards wouldn't have impressed anyone. So there you go. I mean, it looks like it's 2 games. It's 2 games. Now, I found this quite puzzling, because I don't know what those 2 games will be. Let me just take you and have a look at our next fixtures. So what is that? It's so vague, isn't it? Is it league games? What is it? So our next game is obviously Thursday. It's against Freiburg. Then we play Wolves. Then it's the League Cup quarter-final against Liverpool, away at Anfield. So we're home for Wolves, away, Anfield. And then we've got Manchester United at home. After that, it's Arsenal away. Now, it's a little bit funny, this one, because normally when we're in this situation, we find ourselves saying, well, he can't lose the next 3 games. There's normally a number. The number's often vague, but at least there's a stipulation in terms of what the result must be. He can't lose. No manager can lose 5 games in a row, that sort of thing. We're not in that territory, so this makes it very, very different. So what's the criteria? Watching the games closely. When you don't know precisely, you're going to have to try and read something into the situation. So I'm going to anticipate that they're not talking about Freiburg. We can lose against Freiburg, albeit not heavily, because I don't think we can suffer another massive loss. And by the way, Freiburg are infinitely capable of putting a lot of goals past the team. We can tell you that much. I think they're possibly talking about Wolves and Man United. West Ham Wolves, West Ham Man United, the 2 home games. So I think we're almost leaving out the midweek games, which would be Wednesday, 20th of December. And I think, obviously, this coming Thursday against Freiburg, 14th of December. So what happens then? I don't know. Again, it's just been so vague. But it's amazing how quickly it's gone. And it's awfully reactive, this, by the way. Because the result against Tottenham was so good. It really, really was excellent. don't get me wrong, I didn't like the manner of the first half against Tottenham. I thought we invited them upon us, so much so that it was ridiculous. But in the second half, we took the game to them, not because we were at our flowing best, but I thought we battled. We really, really battled and we pressed from the front. To do that is that's a high energy, high stakes game, and as I'll explain in the video later on when I sort of look a little bit more closely about just David Moyes' refusal to rotate. Really, it's going to be so hard for any team to press with that level of intensity. It's no surprise. That Aston Villa play at the intensity they do, but I was discussing it with Gio. Gio watches this stuff far more detail than I do, but it's no surprise that they make the number of substitutes that they do, and they make them quite early in games. They're managing to keep everybody fresh, and they're managing to juggle a European campaign pretty damn well. I think we are actually. The truth of the matter is the table doesn't look too bad. It really doesn't. We're still in ninth. It seems like we've been in ninth forever. But Fulham are a one win behind us. Our goal difference has been absolutely decimated. And I have to say this, it wouldn't be completely surprising if Fulham finished ahead of us. And I think this is where it starts becoming a little bit unpalatable. We're still technically, at the moment, we're still in Europe and we're still in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the 2 games. Maybe it's a case of once we've finished the Man United game, we'll know an awful lot more. Clearly, we'll still be in Europe. We might be out the Cup. We might have lost another couple of games in the league. We might not. We are absolutely capable of winning against Wolves or even winning against Manchester United. And then it sort of all refreshes and it's all over again, isn't it? But I don't think there's an awful lot. I think the board, certainly people on the board, admire what's happened at Brighton. Certainly there's an admiration for the Brighton ownership. I think almost the board accept that Brighton can finish ahead of us. Certainly Newcastle, Tottenham, everybody else above from Brighton, I don't think there's much of a desire, to be fair, to see teams like Fulham, Brentford, Wolves, and possibly you could even make the case of Bournemouth are really resurgent at the moment. They've won 4 out of their last 5, Bournemouth, and there's not any appetite within the club to see those clubs overtaking us. Before I finish up on this video, I've got to say today's offer, by the way, we've been doing the 8 days of Christmas, final offer today, 10% off. An extra 10% off in our club store for all patrons. So if you are an addict, you already get 30% off. You get it 40% off today. These are brilliant offers, by the way. This is the last offer that we're running. This is the final day. It only runs for 24 hours. If you are thinking of joining Patreon, now is the time. It's a great way to support Hammers Chat, and we thank you very much. And honestly, we wouldn't be able to do this every day like we do. Sometimes, well, like today, even uploading twice during the day, we would not be able to do that without our loyal and wonderful patrons, and you long-suffering lot who have to watch these horrible adverts. I do apologise for that, but by the way, it really does help you watching them, and our patrons. Basically, if you could, at level of support for Hammers Chat, if you could find your way to doing that, then we hope that we provided enough perks. There's loads of content. You get loads of stuff from it. It's our 3rd Hammers Chat channel, but also you get big discounts. So I say, if you're a Hammers Chat addict, 40% on the store. Some of this stuff, well, that stuff's at cost, and over it. You're getting really, really good deals on that stuff. So if you're looking to buy somebody some West Ham presents, then it may well be worth going and checking that out. Link to both things in the description below. hammerschatstore.com. Find your Christmas presents on there. But maybe go and check out some of the offers that we've got. Be that to sign up for the year on Patreon, take a week for free on Patreon as a mild addict. We have a lot of offers on there at the moment. Might be worth a while checking out those offers before you go shopping at that West Ham store. It's not West Ham store, is it? Hammers Chat store. So I'll just take you back to what was said. Somebody at the club basically said, made the point, said that the club, they couldn't hardly be more fed up with things. They admitted that some players are physically ill. Alvarez was even weren't able to go on the bench, but we were very bad. We were very, very bad. This is what the club said. He said, let's put it this way. He or she said, said, let's put it this way. We consider the next 2 games very, very important. I just don't believe that is Freiburg and Wolves. Those are technically the next 2 games. I I don't think it's just them. He's under such scrutiny now, David Moyes. Such scrutiny. But it is easily turned around. It really is. And as I say, I think if we'd have lost 2-1 for Fulham, I don't even think you see a problem. It was the capitulation. It was the manner of it. And it was the point that tactically he did not know what to do. There was a reshuffle and it was no better. In that second half, Fulham, and the board will see, the board, you know, will obviously go to these games, go to the away games as well. There was this reshuffle and, you know, Fulham in the second half were playing in... Well, Gerd nearly put the ball in the back of the net at the end, didn't I? They were playing in third gear. I watched Gio's video. He said first gear. I absolutely understood what he meant. They were honestly playing at half throttle, Fulham, and they still put 2 past us, almost put 3 past us, and that was despite our tactical switch. In fact, it was only really when David Moyes started putting some of the fitter players who had more energy onto the pitch that it started to look a little bit better in the second half. But it was a horror show, really. It really, really was a horror show. It's been noted by the board, and David Moyes looks like he's on thin ice again. It's the tale of the season, really.